Oppo Find X8 Ultra or the Vivo X200 Pro? Which is the better device? I've had the Vivo X200 Pro for about a month now and the Oppo Find X8 Ultra for about a week. So let's do a general comparison of these two phones to see which one wins overall. You can buy both of these phones off of Wonder Mobile and you can get the Vivo X200 Pro for around £575 and you can get the Oppo Find X8 Ultra for roughly £740. And just a note before we start, this review is going to be a look at all aspects of both these phones rather than just the cameras as many other reviews have done. So we'll look at the screens, batteries, everything. Firstly, let's have a look at each phone's design. Starting with the Oppo, this is in the black colour, as you can see here, and it's got the Hasselblad branding on the camera bump, as well as the flash up on the top left corner. And with the Vivo, we've got the white colour here, which looks quite nice. Both these colours look nice. And we've got the Zeiss branding with the flash in the top right corner. One thing unique to the Oppo Find X8 Ultra though is the action button, or as they call it, the shortcut button, which is on the side here. And if you press that, you can map it to any of these shortcuts like you would on an iPhone, such as setting it to do not disturb, flashlight, all of that. And it's pretty much just copied off an iPhone, and you can just press and hold that, which will then do the action. Moving on to the screens, the Oppo Find X8 Ultra has a flat Quad HD screen at 6.82 inches, while the Vivo X200 Pro has a curved display at 1260p and is 6.78 inches. But what does this mean in real life? Well, I found that the Oppo Find X8 Ultra screen tends to be ever so slightly brighter than the Vivo screen, as well as the bezels being slightly thinner. Another large difference I found is the display colours, in which the Oppo is much more vibrant than the Vivo, as the Vivo is tuned very naturally, and I prefer the more colourful screen of the Oppo here. So this is more of a personal preference, but if you want a more vivid screen, go for the Oppo Find X8 Ultra, and if you want a more natural, accurate looking screen, go for the Vivo X200 Pro. Overall, I'd say that the Oppo Find X8 Ultra has a slightly better display than the Vivo due to the slimmer bezels and the higher brightness. But now, let's move on to the speaker comparison. I'm going to play on and on both these phones at around 2/3 volume to see which one sounds better. See for yourself. Starting with the Vivo. So, which phone has the better overall speakers? Well, I can tell you from hearing these firsthand that the Vivo has a lot more mids and more balanced sounds than the Oppo, but the Oppo ultimately has the better speakers overall due to the better bass and overall sound than the Vivo. Now, it may be down to personal preference, but the Oppo has more bass and the Vivo has more mids, and the Oppo gives a fuller overall sound. Although this may have not shown up on the sound test because the Oppo also has some quite prominent treble which may have masked over the bass. We are now going to test the performance on each phone by looking at the Geekbench score, which I'm going to run now. And as you can see, the Oppo Find X8 Ultra finished first with a single core score of 3076 and a multi-core score of 9400, and the Vivo's just finished with a single core score of 2815 and a multi-core score of 8604. But I have to say both are extremely powerful and fast, and you will not be disappointed with the performance of either of these phones. And as you can see, on the 3D Mark Wildlife Extreme test, the Oppo got a slightly higher score than the Vivo. Now, what about the battery life on these phones? Well, I haven't done a full comparison yet, but that video should be coming. But I can tell you that I've used both these phones day to day, and the Vivo X200 Pro definitely has the better battery life from day to day. And the Oppo is no slouch either, but I've also watched a Technic video, and you can see on there that the Vivo X200 Pro is one of the best battery life phones out there, whilst the Oppo is kind of in the middle. Make sure to stay tuned for my full battery comparison video, but in short, the Vivo has the better battery life, but both phones will easily last you all day. So how about the software of these two phones? Well, that I can definitely say is better on the Oppo Find X8 Ultra. As you can see here, if I turn the phone on, the notifications look much more Western and more thought out than the Vivo's very plain white background, as well as the software just feeling more fluid, such as the app drawer here, feeling much better, and it just looking better overall. Here is the Vivo in comparison, and as you can see, the notifications look much more plain with the white background and not as nice as the Oppo Find X8 Ultra, as well as the app drawer just not looking as nice and thought out. So overall, I definitely give the software to the Oppo, although I will mention one thing, and that is that the fingerprint sensor definitely seems to be a little bit better on the Vivo, as it seems to register my fingerprint more times than the Oppo does. I am now in Manchester, and let's see what the Oppo Find X8 Ultra and the Vivo X200 Pro can take some photos in Manchester. Now I must point out that I am not a photographer, so this will be a very brief look at how the cameras are from a regular consumer. Both the photos here were taken in vibrant mode, and I definitely prefer the Vivo X200 Pro here, as the dynamic range is much better and the colours just seem to look more pleasant. Now I've switched the Vivo to natural and the Oppo to master mode, and I would say that I actually prefer the Oppo here due to the high dynamic range and the more realistic look. Here are some zoom shots from both phones, and the Vivo is using its 3.7 times telephoto, while the Oppo is using its 3 times and 6 times telephoto. And I must say both these phones look amazing at zooming in and are much closer than I thought they would be. Here we push both phones to 350mm, and I'd probably give the edge to Oppo just on the colours and the sharpness, but both look amazing. Here we can see that the Oppo tends to darken the shadows more as seen on the statue, but the main thing I want to point out here is on this skyscraper. As you can see, the Oppo is ever so slightly wider than the Vivo, even though they are both technically 23mm. Now pushing these zoom cameras to the absolute limit, I prefer the crane slightly on the Oppo, but zooming right into this text I actually prefer the Vivo, so it's a toss up between these two zoom cameras, and I think both are absolutely amazing. And lastly, here are some ultra wide shots from both the phones, and these are fine, nothing to rave about, but they get the job done. And lastly, I just wanted to point out that both these phones have amazing signal, with perhaps the Oppo just having a slight edge with connected to slightly more satellites whilst doing the speedometer, but both have amazing signal. And I also just want to point out that both have the Chinese app stores, which might confuse some people, but both are really easy to set up and get the Google Play Store running, and all services like banking apps, everything Google Play services all work perfectly fine, including Google Wallet, or that in the UK work perfectly, so you don't have to worry about these phones being a Chinese ROM. And so out of the Vivo X200 Pro and the Oppo Find X8 Ultra, which is the better phone? Well, I'd give that to the Oppo Find X8 Ultra, due to the better overall experience of the phone, due to the better screen and the better speakers, as well as a slightly better chip inside, the Snapdragon 8 Elite rather than Dimensity 9400, as well as the phone just being nicer to use due to the Color OS 15, and it's just a better overall package than the Vivo, which is more camera orientated phone, whereas the Oppo's a better overall phone as a whole. But with that being said, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.